Thank you. Good morning, and as Tracy said, I have the privilege of representing 30 Microsoft employees who are so excited to be here, not just to share our latest roadmaps, but to meet with you and hear your feedback about what we can do better in terms of running the service or guidance or innovation going forward. Hopefully all of you take great pride in the progress we've made because it's been driven by so many of your feedback. I'm going to kick us off today with a session on the intelligent workplace with Microsoft 365. And by intelligent, I really do mean how we're using cutting-edge AI technology built in Azure, delivered for end users in Microsoft 365 to deliver a breakthrough in experiences for end users, developers, and administrators. But before I do that, I thought I'd give a little bit on my perspective on ESPC. How many people are attending their first European SharePoint conference? Wow, that's awesome. That's somewhere between a third and a half. Let me tell you about my first ESPC. The experience is probably a little bit different, but it's a good sort of keynote kickoff story. I was thinking about this last night. It was 2015, November 2015. We had to come to Stockholm, Sweden, and it was one of the more interesting and challenging keynotes I'd done because we had a good story to tell, but we were just ramping the SharePoint team for a big wave of innovation we were going to announce the next year. In fact, right after ESPC, Omar and Adam and I and a few others who you'll see in a second had to go back and meet with Satya to share all those plans. But we couldn't talk about them in Stockholm. It was too far in advance. So I had to do one of these talks, which is, look at the cool stuff we've got. But next year will be even better. And so thankfully, the response at the ESPC event in Stockholm was fabulous. And since then, in 2016, we announced what was called the future of SharePoint and a wave of innovation, new experience, new platform, launching what became PowerApps and Flow and foreshadowing Teams and building on Azure in all sorts of ways and much, much more. And last night I looked because I wanted to see the data. Since 4 years ago, which is about 28 years in cloud computing, since the ESPC 4 years ago, usage of SharePoint in the cloud has grown tenfold to over 100 million monthly active users, making it one of the largest cloud services in the industry, thanks to your support. But one other data point I wanted to look at was to see, weren't just people using it, but were they trusting us with their data? And the data stored in SharePoint, including how we power Teams and OneDrive and much more, grew not tenfold, not 20-fold, not 30-fold, but 50 times since this event just 4 years ago. So on behalf of the Microsoft team, we want to profoundly thank you all for being on this journey to cloud computing with us and placing your bet not just on SharePoint, but all of Microsoft 365, Azure, the Power Platform, and much more. Today, I am not here to tell you, yeah, I've got some good stuff. Next year's event will be much better. This year's event is going to be pretty frickin' good. And we've got a lot of great stuff to talk about. But before we get into the product details, I wanted to reinforce how important events like this are for embracing the community. As I said, a lot of the work we're going to show is inspired by conferences and meetings with all of you. It is Tracy and her team do an amazing job every year with ESPC, but it's just one of many events to make technology available to people around the world. Omar and Dan just came from SharePoint Saturday Munich last weekend. Over 400 people attended that. Some of us are going to Oslo this upcoming weekend where we expect a great crowd. Then I'm headed to SharePoint Saturday Charlotte in the United States. And that same weekend, our good friend Gökhan, is Gökhan in the room? I saw him yesterday in the bar. Gökhan is here, and he and a crew are running SharePoint Saturday Istanbul and Turkey, bringing the latest technologies from Microsoft to that community. So I want to echo what Tracy said, which is a profound thank you to all the sponsors and partners and organizers and speakers at these events around the world who work so hard to bring their best practices on ever-changing technology to all of you. And that focus that we have on the community comes back to the Microsoft mission, how we can work together to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. So we hope to do a lot of that this week. We're going to start by focusing on Microsoft 365. Many of you know that we've evolved a broader and broader set of cloud services in the Azure suite, in the Power Platform, in Dynamics' offering, and in Microsoft 365. And what we're trying to do is give you a streamlined, comprehensive experience that cuts across a broad set of services, leverages AI to make using these technologies to collaborate more simple than ever before, and lastly, give you a very flexible platform so that you can adapt it to meet your changing business needs. And we can support a great range of partners, many of whom you'll see here at this event and who are sponsoring ESPC. We're going to talk about Microsoft 365 today in 5 areas: knowledge, intranets, collaboration, our solutions platform for transforming business processes, and last, but certainly not least, the work around security, compliance, manageability, et cetera. And so we're going to, in each of these 5 investment areas, we'll talk about a customer who's inspiring us and then show you some of the latest news. So the first area we're going to cover is called knowledge. This is particularly interesting to lead off for 2 reasons. One is when we talk to customers, they tell us the number one problem they face is skills. How can they get their employees to have the latest skills in a more dynamic environment and economy than ever before? The baby boomers are retiring, people are joining the workforce wanting to have an impact day one, and how can they really harness all their knowledge to empower every person to help their organization move forward? So that's one reason this is a fascinating space, is this organizational need for knowledge and skills. The second is the power of AI. We have hit an inflection point, as you see in so many aspects in our global economy, of the power of machine learning and AI to truly deliver on promises that in some cases are decades old about what technology can do. And so you'll see us harness a set of cutting-edge AI technologies across the board for a variety of experiences. And while we love to geek out about these technologies, it is not about technology for technology's sake. We've been very focused since day one in SharePoint and in the broader Microsoft family of products of being customer-driven. And so one of the customers we work with here as part of our overall program around our new knowledge management offering is Mott MacDonald. They're one of the leading engineering services organizations in the world, helping people with very complicated projects, and they have to. It is essential that they connect everybody in their organization with each other and the content their company owns and works with their clients. And so they were one of many customers that inspired what we announced at Ignite, which is Project Cortex. Satya included it in his keynote and called it the first new application to join Microsoft 365 since the introduction to Microsoft Teams 2 years prior to that. And with Cortex, we are using a spectrum of cutting-edge AI technologies, you'll see in a minute, to do 3 things. First, to identify knowledge wherever it lives, whether it's in the system in Microsoft 365 or we're capturing and ingesting it. Second, to help you organize that into something we call a topic graph to make it more digestible to navigate the knowledge and expertise of your organization. And third, deliver it to you in the natural flow of your work. Of course, we'll support traditional search experiences that are reactive, but we wanted to use AI to deliver a thoughtful set of proactive technologies to suggest content to you in the flow of your work. And all of this is underpinned by advanced security and workflow. We believe, and Satya has talked about this many times, that AI is there to augment people to help them succeed. And so we are using security and workflow integrated with AI so that you control what's exposed to whoever is accessing the information in your organization. That's something you decide leveraging this AI platform. So without further ado, I am very excited to show our first demo of the day, Project Cortex. Let me bring up Naomi Moneypenny, the leader of the Cortex team. Naomi.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Yeah? Good. Having a good time at ESPC. Well, I get to show you some of the favorite work that I've been working on and our amazing team has been working on as well. So really happy to be able to share a lot of this work with you. Now, first thing I wanted to sort of think about is, have you ever been in that situation in your organization where maybe you've joined in a new project or you've come to a new team, and one of the issues is you get faced with something like an email that looks like this, where you've got an acronym where you don't recognize what that means. And you think about, hey, I've got all these words here, I have no idea what this actually means, and I want to think about more and understand what that means inside of the context of my organization. Now, one of the issues that we have here is that understanding what that means inside of your company is really about understanding the resources that are available inside of the organization as well. So one of the areas that we've been developing has really been using Cortex to understand the resources inside of your organization and to be able to mine through all of those resources to create these topic cards and topic pages. Now you can see an example of one of the topic pages right here. And so as you see this scrolling through here, you can see I've got the questions and answers from Yammer, for example. I've also got resources that have been mined by my organization, as well as ones that have been curated by subject matter experts. And it's a really important piece to understand here that we're also using the security and compliance controls, as Jeff mentioned earlier, to understand which resources are being mined and to make sure that those security privileges are maintained. So the goal here is that AI is doing that heavy lifting for you. There's a lot of famous quotes in the world. If only we knew inside of our organization what our organization knew, maybe we get a lot of value straight out of that. And so this is a great opportunity to be able to mine through the content that's available in Microsoft 365 and beyond, and then to be able to bring all of that information together. Now, as I scroll through here, you'll see there's a couple of different areas. I've got some added resources that have been curated by a person, and then we've got ones that have been discovered too. And you'll see here there's a new web part, and this really alludes to that topic map that Jeff was talking about earlier. Now, this is just a web part here on side of this page, and this is something you can use inside of your own experiences as well. And you know that web parts are kind of like children, right? You shouldn't have favorites, but this one is my absolute favorite because it really helps me to understand how things connect together inside of my organization. These relationships have not been set up by people. They've really been mined through the content and then again, finding these different topical areas, so it helps me to discover content inside of my organization. So as I scroll through here, you can see I can navigate onto a different area. And so looking through these areas, for example, the Mark 8 one, and Mark 8 here in this case is actually a product. And so it's one of those areas, it could be a customer, it could be a business process, and these topics can really be anything inside of your company. So it could be project names, campaigns, initiatives, all of those pieces coming together. Now, as we check out these different areas, you'll see that I get a range of resources here. I've got folks that have been suggested inside of my organization. But of course, you have lots and lots of projects inside of your company. Now, we want to think about how do we create a place for you to be able to go and check out all of the notifications, the updates, and the topics that you're interested in. And so this is a great opportunity to see a new kind of a destination. And so this really brings together, you'll see on the side here, we've got the profile that helps to understand your contributions inside of the knowledge network and how that comes together. And then you've also got the trending topics for your organization and other things that you're interested in too. Now, we know it's a really important piece for everything that you're working on to be able to include this new great functionality inside of the destinations that you already have inside of your organization. And of course, because we're based in SharePoint here, I can easily add a new set of web parts right within my organization and be able to add these great knowledge-aware web parts anywhere inside of the portals and destinations that I already have inside of my company. You think about these different areas and how we're bringing this content together, it really makes for a rich, amazing experience to bring all of these pieces coming together. Now, I wanted to show you a little bit more about how we make that knowledge network richer inside of your organization. Because you might say, hey, that's great, Naomi, we've got this great stuff about mining through the content that I already have inside of my company, and that really helps me to learn faster and knowledge sharing and all of that great stuff. But there's a whole other value proposition out there. You might be thinking, oh, my boss really cares about saving time and saving money, and that's really what we want to think about here. Now, in this next demo here, I wanted to show you some of the out-of-the-box functionality that we have. One of the areas here, for example, is being able to take a picture of an engineering diagram in this case, and then being able to check out that engineering diagram and extract the handwritten text directly from it. And this is something that's being powered by Azure Computer Vision. And so you can see here that we've got a number of areas here, and that we'll be able to bring all of this information in. Now, another great opportunity is the ability to be able to bring in information from other sources, such as purchase orders or other information too. And so one of the areas that we want to really look at is how do we help you process that information that's coming into a business process more effectively. So think about, in this case, we're going to connect out to AI Builder. It's a great service in the Power Platform, and it's a great way to be able to process information that looks very similar to each other. So you might have forms that are like things like templates around purchase orders, invoices, those kinds of areas. And so if you have those forms inside of your organization, you want to be able to easily get the information out of there. So in this case, I'm going to check out AI Builder. You'll see when I connect in here, it actually takes me straight to the forms processing interface, and I'm able to pick out and train the model to say, here's the things that are important to me in this purchase order, and so I can pick out the different fields that are important to me, and then when I've got that information, I can actually process it and see it directly here inside of SharePoint. And so all of that illustration is coming through, that information is being processed from a model that I've been able to train, and then populating all of the great columns inside of SharePoint as well. And so if you think about it, that's great for information that looks kind of similar to each other. We have a bunch of forms. We might have things that look in the template format, but you might get a lot of unstructured documents inside of your organization as well. And so for that, we really wanted to think about a different way of working. And this is one of the technologies that I am probably the most excited about. Thinking about how we can take the information that's inside of people's heads, the way that they process information right now. So for example, if you've ever had something like a project proposal process where you sent out a whole bunch of RFPs and you get lots and lots of different consultants and vendors come back to you. You want to be able to encode the information that people have for when they're understanding and reading those proposals. So it could be things like the deliverables and the milestones, et cetera, that you need to extract out of there. But it's not a template process, right? Because each of those different vendors have their way of coming to it. So when they respond back, you're able to use the subject matter expertise inside of your organization to help to train the model to understand the way that people look at it. And this is really based on machine teaching, which is really this understanding that anything we can teach to a person, we can teach to a machine. And so in this case, I'm able to add explanations that help me to bring that expertise into a model that can be shared inside of my organization. And so, of course, I can then extract that information, all these different formats and other pieces there, and then be able to extract that and put that into SharePoint columns, and then, of course, be able to run other things like approval processes, Microsoft Power Automate, and create flows around it as well. So that's just a little taste of what we're doing with Project Cortex. It's really about bringing together the knowledge network, mining through the content that you already have inside of your organization, and then really making the smart ingestion of the business process information so that we can actually help to save you time and save you money. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Naomi. We are very excited about Project Cortex. And in fact, I know that's a bit of a whirlwind, so I just wanted to reinforce what we're doing, is we're using SharePoint as a framework to essentially generate with AI an enterprise wiki for you that you can curate and control. And it's not just data in SharePoint, it's all the data in Microsoft 365, and it's not just the SharePoint experience, it projects into a variety of experiences, including Teams and Office and Outlook and more. So to learn more about Project Cortex, which we will ship in the first half of next year, you can go to aka.ms Project Cortex, where you can learn a lot more. And as we open up the preview, we'd love to have you participate and get your feedback on it. Next up is intranets. Since that ESPC in 2015, we've come a long way in the out-of-box experience we provide in SharePoint that's augmented by a variety of wonderful partners who are building intranet and digital workplace solutions on top of us. The experience is more engaging, more customizable, more relevant. It integrates video with Stream and social with Yammer and much more. And just as Mott MacDonald helped inspire us in the knowledge section, Velux is a great company who's inspiring us to take our intranet experience to the next level. They're a leading-edge European manufacturer that wants to expose its employees to all the collaboration tools we have to offer, knowing that they're going to continue to innovate every day in the cloud, and they want their intranet to be dynamic and reflect not only the changes in their business, but also to get better as we enhance Microsoft 365. But I think VLX is also a great example of recognizing that we're never done. They've given us feedback, as all of you have, on some key capabilities you want to see in the out-of-box SharePoint intranet experience, as well as the customization. And so I'm very excited that we're going to showcase a number of those, as well as some great work that the Yammer team is doing in the next section with a demo led by Dan Holm. Let's bring up Dan.
Thanks, Jeff. Hey, everybody. It's my pleasure to share with you some of the innovations we've introduced for the intelligent internet and employee engagement since the last ESPC. Since the last ESPC, we introduced SharePoint home sites. Built on familiar communication sites, SharePoint home sites allow you to create a landing page on your intranet that brings together news, events, communications, video, conversations, links, and a personal view of what's going on in your intranet. It allows you to create a place that can be the destination for employee engagement and experience in your organization. Of course, we've also brought that to the SharePoint mobile app. And we announced recently that you will be able to brand the SharePoint mobile app with your own logos and theming, allowing you to create a customized, engaging experience for employees on their phones. Now let's take a little bit of a closer look at the home site experience. At the top, we have a mega menu, and we just announced that now you will be able to target links in the mega menu so that if a user is in a specific role or division, you will be able to point them to the resources that are appropriate for them. Going further, on the right-hand side, you now see the new My Feed web part. This web part brings together content from across the internet, documents, news, videos, and more, to help you connect to what's important for you. And in this case, we have put that My Feed web part in the new vertical column on the right-hand side of the page. On the left-hand side of the page, we have Microsoft Stream, a great way to communicate with video in your organization. We've added new AI capabilities to Stream to allow you to filter out background noise so that when video is captured in a noisy environment, you can focus on what's being said. Let's take a quick look at a video with this feature off.
Hey everyone, I just got an all-day exec briefing where I was taking notes like crazy. I gotta tell you, I'm excited for the great stuff we're doing next year. The best part, after all clear from the
pretty cool, huh?
To give you a sneak peek in what we're rolling out in 2020.
Now that's AI being put to great use for me. Scrolling down a little bit further on the page, on the left-hand side, we have the new Yammer web part, which will be coming in the first half of 2020. It features the design for the new Yammer that we'll talk about in just a few minutes. And by bringing conversations into your landing for your organization, you can connect people with the pulse of the organization and with important conversations that are happening across the organization. Finally, at the bottom of the page, you'll notice the new extended footer that allows you to group links and navigation to resources throughout your home site and communication sites. So now let's turn our attention to Microsoft Search. Microsoft Search was introduced since the last ESPC as well. It provides a coherent search and findability experience across Microsoft 365, starting with the new entry point in the suite header of Microsoft 365. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and immediately I start getting results. I'm going to search for Mark 8, and what we see here is a topic card. This is, in fact, one of the experiences from Project Cortex that Naomi talked about. And if you have a topic, for example, Mark 8, it will show up as a hero resource in your search experience. We also announced that in 2020, we will be bringing a video vertical into search that will allow you to search for videos stored in Stream, SharePoint, or OneDrive. So using AI to extract the text and the transcript of what's being talked about in a video, those videos can now start showing up in findability experiences. Finally, we introduced the ability to create custom verticals. So what we see here is that we are bringing information from ServiceNow into our search experience and integrating that into the overall findability for our organization. Last but not least, we introduced the ability to customize the search results page for specific portals in your organization. So on this portal, I've searched for new products, and you'll notice the results have been customized. The look and feel is different, it's a card experience, and we've segregated top presentations and top documents. On the right-hand side of the page, we have links to experts and search tips and tricks, and all of this can be done because the search results page on this portal is just a SharePoint page. So you can click edit and add web parts and make it exactly the experience that you want for that particular portal. Now let's turn our attention to what we've done to make it easier to create content, pages, and news in your organization. We know, especially for customers here in this room, multilingual was an important need and requirement for your intelligent intranets. It's been available on classic SharePoint for a long time, and now we are bringing it to modern SharePoint as well. So you'll notice here, this particular page is in English and has articles in English. That's my default browser language. But I can also switch to other languages, in this case Spanish, and this page and the news articles it is surfacing are in Spanish. The new multilingual capability will allow you to create pages in a default language and then have the appropriate workflows and processes to get those pages to translators that can create variations of those pages. In addition to delivering this important new capability for multilingual pages and news in SharePoint, we've delivered dozens of new capabilities for page authoring and news authoring. I'd like to focus on 3 of them. The first of which I'm a big fan of, and that is version history for pages and news. So now you can see what's changed in the, over the course of a page. Yes, you can applaud if you want for that. I think that's particularly cool. Now we know that you need to spend time creating content on your intranet, but we want to make sure your intranet is also beautiful and visually appealing. So we're giving you thousands of royalty-free, high-quality stock images to make your pages beautiful. So you can focus on the content and have the confidence that the images you're using are available and royalty-free for your organization. Finally, we've heard it's important for you to be able to schedule pages and news to go live at specific times. So over here in the page details pane on the right-hand side of the page, you can see I've scheduled this page to go live at a specific date, and SharePoint does the rest. So those are just a few. Thank you, yeah. Those are just a few of the great page authoring experiences we brought just since the last ESPC. Now, while we've been working with partners and customers to make your intranets engaging and compelling in 2 dimensions, we, of course, are moving forward to create even more engaging and immersive experiences by adding mixed reality to SharePoint. And in the first half of 2020, SharePoint Spaces will go into public preview. SharePoint Spaces allow you to create mixed reality experiences where you can use the skills you already understand about how to build a SharePoint page, like clicking edit and adding web parts, and you can add traditional 2D content as well as 3D content into a 3D space. That 3D space can then be viewed in a browser across devices. No special equipment needed, but it really comes to life when you have a headset. And as we've been working with customers, they've been really excited about this ability to take skills they already know about creating pages, apply them to create mixed reality experiences, and use those for training, communications, and learning, where you really want to capture your audience's attention and give them a reason to put down their phone and stop multitasking and really pay attention to the communication. In addition to what we've been doing for the intelligent intranet, we at Ignite announced the new Yammer in Microsoft 365. Yammer is the tool for building communities, engaging employees, and sharing knowledge across the suite. And we rebuilt Yammer from the ground up. In fact, it is the first app in Microsoft 365 built completely on our Fluent design system. Here on the home feed, AI connects me with conversations from across the organization. You'll see the design is beautiful, it's simple, it's clean. It really celebrates what's being shared, it encourages me to contribute, and it inspires engagement across the organization. To make the role of Yammer clearer in Microsoft 365, we've renamed Yammer groups to communities, to really focus on the fact that Yammer is designed to connect people across teams and across the organization. And in the new feed, you can get in the new navigation, you can get quick access to your favorite communities. Communities can be used to engage leaders with their organization, to drive company communications for corporate communications. and to create employee experiences like a giving campaign that really engage people across the organization in a common effort. Or new employee orientation, where people can start to share knowledge and engage with each other from day one. Finally, we think a hero use case for Yammer is creating communities where people can share knowledge and best practices. In the sales community, for example, we have people sharing knowledge, asking questions, and getting answers. In fact, our question and answer feature, which we released this summer, is also getting a new design. So it's easy to ask a question, to find the best answer, and mark it for the future so that knowledge is preserved. We're also integrating Yammer fully with Microsoft 365, including user profiles. So now there's a unified user profile across the suite, including Yammer. With all these new capabilities, we wanted to make sure we empowered corporate communicators as well. So as I've been going through these communities, you might have noticed they're all brandable. You can use branding and cover photos to really create a sense of identity and place for the community. And we're empowering corporate communicators to pin posts to the top of the feed so that no one ever misses an important conversation, question, or announcement, or poll. Now, as great as the new experience is on web and on mobile, we are also bringing Yammer to you wherever you work in Microsoft 365, including Microsoft Teams. So now, inside of Teams, you can deploy the new Yammer app for Teams. IT can pin it to the left rail of Teams, and now, without leaving the Hub for Teamwork, you can have access to your communities. For example, that CEO connection community. Imagine being able to connect to live events, for example, and conversations with people across the organization right within Microsoft Teams. But the integration that's really changed my life personally is Yammer Conversations in Outlook. Today, if you're @mentioned in a conversation or something happens in a group you're following, you get a notification that tells you to go to Yammer. But now, those conversations will come to you. Yammer Conversations will light up dynamically inside of Outlook, so you can see the full conversation, you can engage with it, you can like, you can reply, you can answer questions, you can reply to polls. So all of the power of Yammer is coming to you in Yammer, on the web, on mobile, in Microsoft Teams, in Outlook, and of course, in SharePoint as part of the intelligent intranet. So we hope that bringing these capabilities together allows you to build great, engaging employee experiences. Again, the new Yammer will be coming in the first half of 2020, and we look forward to sharing a lot more with you as we go through the coming months. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dan. Well, I know when I talk to customers, the thing I hear most often is they've got fixated in their head what was built custom for them on SharePoint in 2007 or 10 or even 13. And so we really, if you get a chance and you have to show somebody in your organization, the CEO, the head of corporate communications, in 60 seconds, the spectrum of new experiences we can give you out of box, go to lookbook.microsoft.com. You can download a brochure. We've got some here at the event so that you can share it with somebody and show the kind of engagement in seconds that Dan just walked you through. Next up, we're going to talk about collaboration, spanning users working on files all the way up to team collaboration. The company that inspired us there, another great European company, is Nestle. Who doesn't love Nestle? And what they did is transform their organization and how they work with OneDrive and the enhanced support in the Office applications for collaboration. So now they have the ability to access content anywhere they go on any device and collaborate seamlessly inside and outside their organization. And IT trusts that with the underpinnings we put in Microsoft 365, they have greater security and governance than they ever had of that before. And Nestle, as with Velux and Mott MacDonald, inspired us to take this to the next level. To be honest, the last couple years we've been getting the word out that we have OneDrive Sync and mobile apps. We have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, co-auth on all 5 platforms, Windows, Mac, web, iOS, and Android. And we sort of have been literally going around the world. We have co-auth and cross-platform clients for all our major applications, because not everybody knew that. At this point, we think people know that, although if you run into somebody who doesn't, please tell them. And so we're now taking to the next step beyond with AI augmented collaboration. So I'm really excited to show you a whole spectrum of our new collaboration tools to bring up Omar Shaheen. Omar.
Thanks, Jeff. Companies like Nestle, students, small businesses inspired us to build Office.com, which is a wonderful way to get started. And you can see here a new theming capability we're introducing to let you personalize it. At the very top of Office.com is Microsoft Search, a personalized experience for you to get to your applications, your documents, including people you work with. At the top of Office.com is a list of applications. We're adding the ability for you to introduce custom applications, such as this expense tracking application from Concur. Below that is a list of recommended files, making it easy to get to your content, including stream videos and SharePoint news. And then below that, of course, is your list of recent files, which includes collaboration signals. So when you go to Office.com, you can see what's happening with your content. At the very top, you should notice the giant Create New button, making it clear that this is where you go to create new files and new content. But we're introducing a new capability which lets you personalize templates for your organization, and with SharePoint as the authoritative source. So you can have your custom theming and content reflected there for your individual end users to create from. Now I'm going to show off a couple of new features in PowerPoint, Word, and Excel. Let's start with PowerPoint. I mentioned earlier custom templates, and here you can see I'm working on a presentation with some of my company's branding and colors. But I haven't put a ton of work into this slide deck yet. You can kind of see it's a little bit boring. Now, I can go ahead and select the Layouts button, which is going to introduce all of the custom layouts that we've designed for this template. So I can ensure people in my organization are using said layouts. But that looks like a lot of work. And so instead, I'd like to take advantage of the Microsoft Ideas feature in PowerPoint, which has accessed over 1 billion slides and produced much better results, such as the ones you're seeing here. And so by adding an image to this slide, I'm given a number of different choices. And I can go ahead and select from those choices to get a sense of what this might look like. I kind of like this last one the best because I think it does a best job with the colors and theming that we use in our company. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Next, moving into Word, we've introduced some new features in Word that tell you what's happened to your documents since the last time you accessed it. You can see those little blue dots over there on the left that highlight the changes that have been made by my colleague, as well as telling me when they occurred. We're also adding a new commenting capability that lets you anchor comments in a document, a spreadsheet, or a PowerPoint presentation with this new bubble experience that you see here, letting me @mention a colleague, in this case Lee, including some text. And when I hit send, my colleague will get an email informing them that I @mentioned them. But we're also adding support to assign a task. And when I create that task, it's not just stored in the document, but that task is going to show up in the applications that I use to manage my tasks, such as Outlook or Microsoft To Do, making it easy to see all of the things I need to act on across all of the content in my company. Let's look at what that @mention email looks like on Outlook Mobile. And so here I can see the email. And now, in addition to that, I can also see the context of that comment. And so earlier you saw me highlight some text. You can see it right there. But you can see the content around that text, which makes it possible for me to click Add Comment and actually reply to that comment directly from within Outlook Mobile. This is a huge time saver because I no longer have to open up another application, switch back and forth. And that comment that I just made is sent through Exchange and posted into SharePoint. And you can see it reflected right here in the email in real time, which makes it possible for you to do a lot of your collaboration activity from your phone on the go. And now Excel. As Jeff mentioned, we added real-time capability to all of our Office applications. But one top piece of feedback from Excel customers has been the ability to customize the views of data that they're looking at in Excel, where you can see here I'm going ahead and selecting a custom filter. And what I can do now is create a custom sheet view in Excel so that I can model data directly in my view of Excel and not have that disrupt or change the collaboration activity or views that are occurring in other people who are looking at that Excel spreadsheet as well. I can even name that view and persist it later on. I think that feature deserves a huge round of applause, given the amount of feedback we've received about it. All right, now let's talk about the phone a bit more. We're really happy to announce at Ignite that we're introducing a single Office mobile application for iOS and Android, which will be available shortly. This simplifies the process of getting Office installed on your phone, so you no longer have to install Word, Excel, and PowerPoint as separate applications. You just install the single Office application. And you can see here that application includes things like recommended, as well as my list of recent files, so I can quickly access that content. Thank you. We're also introducing new mobile actions, which are mobile-specific experiences that let you do things like, in this case, create a quick survey, in this case about an event. And using AI, we're actually expertly choosing questions you might want to ask your audience about that event. So without just one click, I've now created a form that contains a series of questions that I can send out. And once I've done that, I can actually click in the recent list again and get a list of real-time results. So I can access not just the survey creation experience, but the results experience on the go and see how people are responding to my survey. And do this all from my phone. All right, so we've talked a bit about the Office applications. And now we're going to show you a couple new features in Microsoft Teams, which is the hub for collaboration and teamwork in Microsoft 365. We're really happy to finally release the brand new files experience in Teams, which you can see here. This experience is powered by SharePoint document libraries and has all the same capabilities, such as pinned files, previews for over 300 file types. I can go ahead and expand that view and select from any of my custom document library views. But even cooler is the ability to see rich metadata, custom formatting, and even edit that metadata, which I'm going to do now by selecting properties. And so I can go ahead and change the status from draft to final. You'll see that change in real time as that color changes from blue to green. And I can even change the effort from, say, 5 to 8 to reflect the final value, and that information updates in real time. And so we're super, super excited that you can now do all of these common file operations directly in Teams. But there's more. Let's say I want to share and collaborate through chat. Well, what I've done in this case is I've copied a URL from the address bar to the clipboard, and we all know that doesn't actually share the content, and I've pasted it here into the chat with Deborah. Teams is actually going to tell me that, hey, Deborah doesn't have access to this file. And by clicking directly in the file chiclet there, I'm going to get a series of options. And one option specific to Teams is people currently in this chat. And so I can go ahead and select that. And now this file is individually and securely permissioned directly to Deborah. Without ever having to leave Teams or do anything, I've now just shared and secured that file directly with the recipient so I can go ahead and chat with them. All right, we're going to switch over and talk a bit about OneDrive. And OneDrive is the hero application in Microsoft 365 for managing and accessing files. And so starting in the web experience, over on the left, you're going to notice a list of shared libraries. These are all the locations across teams and groups that I'm working in, available to me directly in OneDrive on the left nav. There's the new hover card, which we updated with features such as inside look, as well as a summary of the content in the document. But brand new is a feature that highlights emails and Teams conversations about this document. So now when I go and look at a file, I can quickly and easily access the conversations that I'm having across Microsoft 365. And we think customers will love the ability to get back to those emails and conversations directly from within OneDrive and SharePoint. Now, Ignite, we made a really big announcement for OneDrive, which is that we improved the ability for you to save very large files. And so we now support 100 gigabyte files in OneDrive and SharePoint that can be synced from your PC and Mac into the cloud or uploaded on the website. And now with that support for large files, we introduced another feature, which is called differential sync. And so here I am working in Adobe Photoshop, and I'm adding a small logo to this file. And previously, when I went ahead and saved this file, it would have to sync the entire file back up to the cloud. But with differential sync, when I go ahead and save this, it's going to replace the local file. But the OneDrive sync engine is actually intelligent and can take a look at the changes that have been made. And you're going to see this happen really fast. But essentially, it's just uploading a couple of small kilobytes of files that have changed in this file and pushing that up to the cloud. And so that's going to both save you time, save you bandwidth, and make the process of working on these really large media files a much, much better experience for all of you. All right, I'm going to have to stop here for a second. Raise your hand if you love dark mode. All right. Dark mode is one of my favorite features. I even came dressed today in dark mode, as you can see, with my special OneDrive dark mode t-shirt. Well, it turns out our customers love dark mode. And so with iOS 13, almost half of our customers have chosen to use dark mode. And OneDrive was one of the first applications to support dark mode, along with many of the other Microsoft applications. We actually took an approach to looking across our design language and making sure that dark mode looked great in our Office applications. And so let's take a look at what OneDrive looks like. You can see here we introduced dark mode, but we also introduced other capabilities, such as the ability to sign PDF files natively in the PDF viewer in OneDrive. So here I can quickly add my signature, and once I'm done with that, I can actually go and share that by switching over to the Outlook mobile application through our new file picker, where I can simply click on the Attach button, select Attach File, and up's going to come the new recent list as well as the file browser. And I'm going to go ahead and select that file that's at the top of my recent list since I just edited it, and insert that link into Outlook and send it. It's been automatically permissioned, so people inside and outside my organization can ensure that they have access to that file in the cloud. Thanks. So that's just a small sampling of what we've built around collaboration. It's been a pleasure and privilege to be here today and show that to some of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar. So much of what he showed really makes a difference every day to every user in so many organizations. So thank you for helping us get the word out. As Tracy highlighted at the beginning, there's so much more we've got at this event this week. In particular, one of the next sessions coming up is Caruana leading a session on Microsoft Teams. We just scratched the surface of what we focused on here, which is hopefully everybody knows that every Microsoft team is backed by a SharePoint team site. And our goal is to get the full richness of SharePoint, not just in the browser, not just on the web, on the mobile phone, but in Microsoft Teams as well. Next area is how you can adapt all this technology in Microsoft 365 with Azure and the Power Platform to build solutions to help transform processes in your organizations. The customer that inspired us here is the Jim Henson Company. They do the Muppets, if you're familiar with that. And they do a lot of work on stages where they're recording their shows. And so collaboration has to be on the go, and they want to automate repeated workflows. And so they're a user of the technology we've got today in Microsoft 365, but they are also influencing something that you'll see in a second that we introduced at Ignite called Office Scripts. And so to show that and much more, let me bring up Adam Harmitz. Adam?
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Good to be here today. So forms over data, process orchestration, metadata, that's what we're going to be looking at for the next few minutes. And where else should we begin that but in a SharePoint document library? So I'll go ahead and work with this library that has metadata on it. The first thing I'm going to do is hit the new Focus on Content button. That's a couple user voice points right there. Thank you for the feedback. The navigation disappears, the header disappears, and I can focus on what I need to do. I'm going to go ahead and drag that status column around because it's the most important in the library. I'm going to do things like adjust the column settings for conditional formatting. So I'm going to go ahead and be able to adjust the look and feel of this. Before, I'd have to either know JSON or have a friend that knows JSON in order to be able to do this. But now I can do this with just out-of-the-box UX. I'm not done yet. I'm going to take the status column. I'm going to go ahead and group by status. I'm going to go drag something into a different status column. You'll see how it updates the metadata. And it's starting to almost look like a Kanban view or its own business app. I'm going to actually switch to a tiles view. And you'll see I even have a card for each individual item. So all of a sudden, I have a huge app here that I can begin to work with. I'm going to click on participating locations right now. And what that's going to do is load up the edit properties pane for this library. But instead of the default edit properties pane, it's a Power App. Now, we shipped this on lists a few years ago, in fact. And now we've added it to document libraries now. So PowerApps is the consistent forms over data story when you want to customize a SharePoint library or list. Now, this is all good, but I've created this in SharePoint. And maybe I have a bunch of other business processes or libraries that I've created in SharePoint team sites over the years. And suppose I want to bring them into the hub for teamwork, aka Microsoft Teams. So if I want to do that, you'll take a look at the new, what we call Teamify internally. So it's a next step where I can create a Microsoft team that will use the existing SharePoint team site as well as the Office 365 group. And I also have a wizard here where I can select existing content here, such as the promotions library I was just working with, and bring it with me into Microsoft Teams. So I don't start with a default team, but I start with the context of the work that I've already been doing. We really think this is an awesome opportunity to be able to bring in existing team sites, existing content into Microsoft Teams. And what's more, of course, as Omar was saying, the full fidelity experience of the SharePoint document library is right there, but I also can bring content and conversations together. So I can start a conversation about the promotions library, make a little comment on it, and of course, not only would it appear here in context, but if I go over to the Conversations tab as well. So that was a quick tour of some of the business processes you can do around a set of content. But we also know people want to do business processes inside content itself. And that's where Jeff was talking about Office scripting. So Office scripting is our attempt to bring the ability to automate repetitive processes in Excel and other Office apps together. VBA has been used over the years to be able to do this, and we still support VBA, of course. But what we wanted to do is modernize this, both bring it to the web, as well as make sure the output of this was something a modern developer would recognize. So we use the Office JavaScript APIs. I'm going to show you this in action by automating a repeated process that I do. So I click the Automate tab and record actions. Here I am in Excel, and of course I'm going to create a new worksheet, give it a name, enter some metadata. And as I do that, the Record Actions pane is going to follow along with what I'm doing. And in human readable English, you can tell what's going on in this thing that I'm automating. Now, what I really want to be able to do is extract out the esoteric parts of the spreadsheet into the script, but have a separate process where people can just enter data. So nobody needs to know how I use this data inside the spreadsheet. And so to do that, I'm going to use Microsoft Forms. So you see, what I'll do is have a Microsoft form where the data I need for this script is entered super quickly. And so nobody that is creating a new promotion needs to know anything about how I use Excel. And what I'm going to do is use Microsoft Flow from Power Automate to bring this all together. So when a new form item is submitted, send that data to the Excel script that I just recorded, and that's going to be able to run the script and create the new items in the spreadsheet as needed. And you can say I can do other things like copy files or post a message to Teams. Now, one more thing that I want to show here is how you can really bring Office collaboration together with business process. So what I had the flow do here is automatically @mention somebody if the discount margin was less than 21%. And so it's just a clever way you can start bringing people into the content itself. You can sort of take advantage of the latest in Office collaboration technologies in your business process. And so that's just a whirlwind tour of the Office scripting as well as other business processes today. Back to Jeff.
Thank you, Adam. All right. We see a couple people milling around. Don't worry. Don't worry. There will be time to get to the team session. We know we started a little bit late. Went a little bit long. It'll be okay. Don't worry. Everybody calm down. And we're not done. We got some more cool stuff to show. All right, so let me talk about, Adam talked about no-code, low-code extensibility. Let me talk briefly about the professional developer platform. We want to make sure you can easily, with mainstream development skills, get access to all the data in Microsoft 365 and extend all the experiences in Microsoft 365. So if we talk about the journey we're on, the first step was introducing the Microsoft Graph API, a common REST interface to get the files and lists and sites and contacts and calendars and mail messages and so forth. It's the data layer, the Graph API. Next up, we introduced the SharePoint framework, which used modern JavaScript technology to let you extend SharePoint so that those SharePoint sites that Dan Holm showed earlier or those pages that Adam showed can be extended by custom JavaScript. But we had bold ambitions from the beginning for the SharePoint framework to extend far beyond SharePoint. And in fact, at Ignite, we announced how you'll be able to use SPFX to extend Office. Last year, we showed how SPFX can use to extend Teams. We're now bringing that extensibility into Office add-ins so you can put new components on the canvas. And that's complemented by this new underlying data platform we've introduced over the last few months in preview, or announced it, and we're going to preview now, called the Fluid Framework. That is a heterogeneous co-authoring technology that we'll bring across all our canvases. And to show just that in action here, we've got 4 canvases: PowerPoint, SharePoint, the Fluid Preview canvas, and Outlook, and we could also have had Teams here, that will host these components where the underlying data is in SharePoint, the transport protocol in real time is the Fluid framework, and the SharePoint framework tool chain is used to build these components that can live and allow co-authoring across all these heterogeneous canvases. So SharePoint framework, very broad mission. We might extend or change the name or tweak the name to make it broader one day, but you should think again about SharePoint providing the underlying storage and extensibility model across Microsoft 365. All right, last up is security and compliance and manageability, a key place for us. Again, 50 times more data than ESPC 4 years ago because you've concluded that the cloud, and specifically the Microsoft cloud, is the place where you have the best control, security, governance, and oversight of your information. The reason we've seen customers do that is because we've been listening and investing significantly in security and compliance capabilities. Here's a quote from one of the CISOs that we work with on a regular basis at BP. And they've influenced many new security capabilities that we've delivered over the last couple of years. We've got many more in the pipeline. And to show you some of those, I'm very excited to bring up our last demoer, Navjot Virk. Navjot?
Good morning, everyone. So let's get started with sensitivity labels and how they help you protect all of your information in Microsoft 365. So as you can see, here for my organization, I've created 4 sensitivity labels, and I can associate all of these labels with rich security and governance policies. So for example, here I have a few labels: general, confidential, top secret, and M&A legal top secret. The confidential label has been associated with content marking, RMS protection, and also with site and group privacy settings. Once I publish these labels, my users can use them to protect data in Microsoft 365. Like here, when I'm creating a new team, I can look at these labels and apply one of them. I'm going to click on confidential. The label and the associated policies are applied to the team and also to the SharePoint site that backs that team. When you apply a label to a site, it holistically protects all the files and the site content. And of course, your users can label individual files as well. But now you can do more. As an admin, you can create auto-classification policies that will automatically detect and protect sensitive files in your organization. Here I'm creating a simple policy to automatically label any file that contains financial information as confidential. As a user, when I'm working on a file and I add some financial information, like credit card numbers, a yellow bar appears on the top, prompting me to apply the sensitivity label. I click on that, and the file is now automatically labeled confidential with the corresponding policies applied to it. But if your users are not proactive or don't click on that label, don't worry, the service still has you covered. It will automatically scan your files, find the sensitive files, and label them on your behalf like it has done here. So you can be rest assured that all of your data is always automatically protected. Now, the next feature I want to show you is a new feature called information barriers. This is going to enable you to create barriers between different users in your organization. It's really helpful for those of you who work in really regulated industries like financial services. So imagine that I work for a bank, and I have some users who work on investment banking side and some who are customer advisors. Now, financial regulations require that these two set of users not be able to communicate or collaborate with each other in order to avoid insider trading. So to achieve that, I'm going to create an information barrier. So first, I'm going to create 2 user segments: investment banking and advisory. Investment banking has 2 users, Sesha and Jeff in it, and advisory has another user called Nikita in it. Now I'm going to create a policy that is going to block all communication and collaboration between these 2 user segments. Once I do that, Sesha, who is an investment banker, can easily collaborate with Jeff, who is also an investment banker. But when Sesha tries to collaborate with Nikita, he cannot even find her. Not just that, even when he tries to add her to the teams, he can't find her. he cannot chat with her. This information barrier is enforced across Microsoft 365 to make it easy for you to meet your compliance needs. So next, I'm going to show you a few features that we're adding to the new modern SharePoint admin experience. We've heard feedback from many of you that you would like us to give you the ability to modernize your root site. So now, with just a few clicks, I'm going to take my old existing SharePoint root site and replace it with this modern home site I've created for my organization. All I have to do is select the site, click on Replace Site button. I'm going to give it the URL of the new site that I've created for my organization. I'm going to hit Save. And once this is done, when my users now go to the root site of my organization, they're going to see this beautiful new home site I've created for them. Pretty easy, right? Now, we're continuing to improve our SharePoint admin experience based on your feedback. And for example, we've added a new control panel to show you all of the settings for a site in one place. So you can easily see and manage your sites from here. When you click on the Permissions tab, for example, it now shows you all the users who are admins for this site, and also all the users who have access to this site, everything right from here. Now, based on your feedback, we also know that you're waiting for us to modernize the remaining classic experiences in the SharePoint Admin Center. So here is a sneak peek at the new Term Store admin experience that the team has been working on. Now, this experience is going to give you detailed analytics, but not just that, it is also going to make it really easy for you to manage both the taxonomy and content types in your organization. And we will continue to modernize the remaining experiences as well. And finally, we are making it easy for you to migrate all of your content to Microsoft 365. I'm really excited to announce the new Migration Manager that makes it really easy for you to orchestrate and manage large-scale migrations. Now, in my case, I happen to be an admin of a large organization, so I have to migrate over 100 terabytes of data from on-premises file shares to SharePoint Online. To achieve that, I've created multiple migration tasks that I'm running on multiple migration clients. The new Migration Manager makes it easy for me to manage all of my migration clients from this one single location, so I can orchestrate my entire migration. I can also manage individual tasks, and for each task, I can get detailed task reports and also change the settings of the task right from here in the SharePoint admin experience. We believe this is going to make it really easy for you to handle large migrations and bring all of your data to Microsoft 365. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Navjot. The SharePoint migration tool is just one option. We have some great partner solutions. A few weeks ago, I announced the acquisition of a company called Mover. A number of you have asked us for a first-party solution to migrate from alternative cloud storage solutions, folks like Google Drive, Box, and Dropbox. We've seen a ton of interest in that. And so we announced at Ignite that we're going to be making the Mover service, just like the SharePoint migration tool, available for free. We're working hard on that now that they're part of Microsoft, and you should see that in the next couple months. So that's a tour of security and compliance and manageability. Again, the goal here is for us to be the best place to protect your data and to continue to innovate every day to help you do your job better. Innovations not just for end users, but IT people as well, as Navjot showed with classification and labeling and information barriers and several other things. So, whirlwind, I know, we got a lot in. This is what we covered today. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to show in a variety of sessions this week. Hopefully, you're seeing that your bet on Microsoft technologies comes with a huge focus on inspiring confidence and trust in protecting your data and continuous innovation across a broad spectrum of capabilities. Again, on behalf of the team at Microsoft, thank you so much for your support of our technologies. We don't take that for granted. We are very excited to engage with you all this week and get your feedback, so we will be back at the next ESPC, maybe with not more demos, but hopefully the same amount of demos as we showed with you this morning. So thank you again. Have a fantastic event.